Hi, and welcome to E's Bookshelf. This is a podcast about my bookshelf, which includes historical fiction, realistic fiction, science fiction, fantasy, and mystery books. I'm your host, Alicia Driver. So, in today's episode, I'll be discussing the book The Showgirl by Nicola Harrison. I think this book is really important because it has a lot of issues that many people face, such as family and peer approval, and having a child out of wedlock, self-discovery, and even more intense issues such as date rape, drugs, societal norms, and the way women are treated in the entertainment industry. It even has alcohol and smoking issues, cheating, infertility, adoption, and financial issues. This book takes place in the 1920s, and it ends right at the start of the Great Depression. The Roaring Twenties, such a classic time period. So, Olive is a young woman who dreams of becoming a performer, like a performer on Broadway. So, she is traveling the U.S. in hopes of finding her big break. Her father, however, does not approve. No one knows why. So one day, while she's at a bar in Hollywood working with an opera company, a man approaches her claiming to be a studio executive. They talk and he kisses her. She tries to pull away, but the rest of the night was a blur. Olive becomes pregnant, and that is the last time we hear about the man claiming to be a studio executive. Her mother finds out and insists on sending her to live with the nuns, and they tell her that they will have her baby adopted after she gives birth. So the rest of Olive's family is told that she is living with her aunt who is sick to take care of her. Her father tells her to find a nice man and settle down. That's not what she wants. So her family moves to New York for her father's job, and she lands a role on Broadway. Her family watches her show, and they all love it. All except for her father. And he tells her that if she continues her job on stage, then he will not allow her to live with them. So with that, she moves in with some friends that she met at the show. So she's living it up in New York, working many shows. Until one day, her boss has a talk with her about the theater's budget. He claims that she's a star, so he will not be cutting her. Then he tries to make sexual advances on her, and she refuses. She gets cut from every show except one. But, however, she continues to do her best no matter her situation. And that one show put her on New York Times Magazine. So she meets a man at a show, and they begin dating. His name is Archie. Little does she know, he is engaged. But he continues to pursue her. He calls off his wedding, and they begin dating. So Olive calls her mom, and they set up some time to sit down and talk. Now remember, it had been months, and during this time, she has changed a lot, but her mother is not happy with who she has become. She has chopped off all her hair, the trend in the 1920s, and she is still performing, and she started dating a man who's a widow, and she started smoking, and she became very aware of the little rights that women have. Archie, the man that she is seeing, he proposes to her, and she says yes. They meet his family, and although his family does not approve, they continue with their marriage. His only request is that she quits her job as a performer. Yikes. So, Archie travels a lot for his work, and he promises Olive the world in return for her quitting her job. So she agrees. He says that he wants to have children with her, but little does he know that after her first pregnancy, she can't have kids. He doesn't even know that she has a child. So, days before the wedding, Olive is imagining her life with Archie, and she is not happy. In fact, she is miserable. Love should not require her to sacrifice her passion. What good is gaining the world if you have to sacrifice your soul? So with that, she calls off the wedding. And this book really shows us how women in the 1920s were viewed and treated, especially in the entertainment industry. And these issues still happen today. So she returns to the city, hoping to get her job back, and when she gets there, she finds out that her part in the show has already been recasted. Then Olive's mother tells her that her aunt has passed away and that they have to attend her funeral. So Olive is living with the nuns again, and Olive's mother had adopted Olive's baby from the nuns a little after the baby was born. Olive is told that her child is her cousin, but she can see right through the lies and knows very well that that is her child. She comes clean with her family, and she wants to take the child back to New York with her while she continues to work at the speakeasies. Her plan, however, has many flaws. She addresses the flaws, and then she leaves the next morning to New York, alone. The nuns find out that Olive is working at speakeasies, and this is forbidden. They kick her out, which I find pretty contradicting, considering the Bible says to open your home to those in need. So, anyways, with that, she is sleeping in the dressing rooms of the speakeasies, and she has very little money left, and with that little money that she has left, she buys a rocking horse for her daughter. Then the stock market crashes and the Great Depression begins. Olive goes back to Archie and she comes clean with him. She tells him of her plan to move to Europe, and they both still love each other and they're willing to make some changes to start their relationship again. The book ends with Olive and Archie and her daughter, her name is Addie, moving to Europe together to start a new life. And Olive already has a job set on performing in Europe. And I kind of wonder if the author herself, if her parents had approved of her career choices, considering a lot of this book revolved around your parents' approval. So I researched this author, and it turns out that she was born in England, and she moved to the US when she was 14, and she became a fashion journalist. So I can see how writing about costumes and fashion could have a connection to performing. And I looked at her blog. It doesn't say anything about her being a performer. But I also wonder if Olive and Archie ever have any more children. Like, whether it be through adoption or surrogacy or things of that nature. Or if Addie's father ever finds out about her existence. And I also wonder if the author herself knew what it was like to be a young parent, but I went even further and I checked out her Facebook. It turns out that she has 2 sons who appear to be rather young, and she is currently 43. So I would assume that she wasn't a young parent. Anyways, so I also wonder if Archie and Olive's family survived the Great Depression, or if any of the other performers that Olive was living with, if they survive. So the author, her blog is NicolaHarrison.com, and it appears that she has another historical fiction book that takes place in 1938. And she has another book coming out in 2023 that takes place in 1943. I feel like I can relate to Olive because I've been criticized for leaving my hometown, and I've been criticized for my career choices as well. I'm not really sure what I would have done if I was Olive and I was pregnant. Obviously, that's a sensitive topic, and abortion wasn't really an option at that time, and the adoption system, I'm sure, was even more crazy than it is today. But this book has a lot of different emotions involved, and it keeps you on your toes. But this book has a lot of issues that many people I know have faced, and I've actually been to New York City myself and seen a show on Broadway. It was Aladdin. And the costumes were beyond gorgeous, and the show was breathtaking. So I can definitely see the appeal when it comes to that type of life. I can't really understand as to why Archie would want her to quit her job. Perhaps it was because he didn't want other people looking at him and thinking, you don't make enough money to support a family, so you need your wife to work. I guess it could have harmed his ego. But the right man won't be threatened by a talented, passionate, independent woman. But obviously, things are different back then. And I also think part of the reason he didn't want her working that type of job is because of the sexual advances that were made towards her. Like, she got raped because she was hoping to further her career in that field. So I can understand how he wants her to be safe and he doesn't want that issue to happen again, but you can't just stop living because of fear. But anyways, so I was reading this book at work, and a patient, I work at an acupuncture clinic, by the way. I'm the receptionist, the lady who sits behind the desk. So I was reading this, and she asked me about the book that I was reading, so I gave her the gist, like a girl in the 1920s wanting to be a performer and her family doesn't approve. And the patient's response was, wow, they were so scandalous back in the day. And I really enjoyed the passion and the thrill of this book, and I would love to see this book turned into a movie with the author picking out the costumes and all the outfits in general, considering she's a fashion journalist. So I think this movie would make a great historical romance movie. If you want to ask me any questions about a future podcast or any book recommendations, you can email me at aliciadriver@gmail.com. That's ELLYSIADRIVER@gmail.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram, which is Alicia Driver, and you should also check out Beyond the Book with Julie for author interviews on YouTube, and follow her Instagram, which is the Julie Chan Show, and she was the one who recommended the Showgirl to me. So next time I'll be back with the book The Cipher by Isabella Maldonado. It's about an FBI agent who was abducted when she was 16 and she escaped, but her abductor is determined to get her years later. So, until next time, bye.